All right. Tonight's video, I'm going to be talking about femininity. And of course, I'm always talking about femininity. But there's a really big misunderstanding that so many women um, they're not fully seen when it comes to what femininity is, right? And being like fully energetically in their feminine, right? And fully open and soft and everything. And what that is, and I'm not talking about the women who are completely oblivious to polarity and everything. I'm talking about women who are actually into polarity, right? Women who follow me, right? There's a big blind spot here with women who think that they are feminine, when they are somewhat submissive and vulnerable and everything, but really they're not, right? It's just they're a masculine woman who is able to submit, like follow a man's leadership, and be vulnerable sometimes, right? So it's something that they're doing, but they haven't fully embodied their femininity. Now, the best way to use an example for women that'll hammer in this understanding better is to use men, like the male equivalent, right? So I'm going to give a couple examples here. The best example that I can think of for those of you who've watched it is Alan from Two and a Half Men. So if you've ever watched that show, he's Charlie's brother, I think, yeah, his brother, and he is unbelievably feminine, right? Another example, not quite as good, would be like Ross from Friends, and there's probably others. I just don't want to take the time to actually think about this. So imagine Alan or Ross, if you haven't watched Two and a Half Men. It was very feminine, really in his feelings, not has no backbone. He's not a man at all. Now imagine if you gave him some tools to lead, right? He started, communicating in a way where he's directing a woman and, making judgments on a woman's behavior. But his overall energetic signature is still very feminine, right? Just because he's doing something like leading, that does not change his overall energetic signature, right? And it'd be the same with Ross. It's like, yes, he's able to lead, but the overall it's still feminine. And so it's the same thing that a lot of women who that really think that they are really in their feminine, it's the same kind of issue where no, they're not. Like, yes, they're able to express their feelings and be vulnerable at times, and yes, they're able to follow a man's lead, but the energy is still energetically, like, it's still overall masculine, right? And so a lot of these women are wondering, like, men are still not stepping up, and I'm willing to follow a man's lead, and I'll express my feelings and stuff, and a man's not men are just still not coming out of everywhere. These, like, where are these devoted men, right? And that's again where women will often get into this mind, like this belief of, like, there's just no devoted men. There's no, or like no dominant men, right? Like these real men, like, they're just not stepping up. They're not stepping up for you, right? That's the hard truth. They're just not stepping up for you. There are tons of dominant men out there. Yes, of course, the average man isn't, but there is a, when a woman is fully in her feminine, fully in her radiance, there will be dominant men, right? They will come out of the woodwork. They will find her, and won't have that problem. So I really want women. It's a hard thing to be this honest, right? Because with yourself, because it's a lot less painful to always put it on, like, externally, right? Essentially blaming. You don't have to be angry blaming, but you are putting the problem onto someone else or a group of other people. So if you are a woman that is thinking, like, where are all of these men, right? Like, there's just no dominant men. No, there are. It's just you are energetically still overall in your masculine. That's it, right? And there's basically no exceptions to this unless you live on a deserted island and there's no men at all. The dominant men will find you. And I want, and it might be painful, but I really want you to be reflecting on this analogy that I'm giving with Alan from Two and a Half Men, right? Because that is like, if Alan was on a date with you, right? And again, use Ross from Friends if you don't, if you're not sure what my example is, and he was leading the date, would you be attracted to him? Would you be compelled to let go of control and be able to just effortlessly submit with him, right? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't feel very comfortable and you wouldn't be very attracted, right? And that's understandable. That's very understandable. And so it's the same thing with women who are still very much in their masculine, even if they are, you know, sometimes expressing their feelings and trying to just, you know, because like think of it like a first date, right? Basically, almost every single woman is submitting to the man on a first date or a second date, right? I mean, except for the women that are really got some bad programming going on, or if it's a man who's really weak and has no idea what he's doing, right? It's like it's still so culturally ingrained for women to just let go of control and just submit and enjoy the date that the man takes her on and go along with it, right? So that part's easy, but is it possible for a woman to follow a man, but she's still feeling really masculine to him, right? Where he's not energized, he's not, it just, even though the actions are the man is leading and the woman is following, he's not really inspired, right? He doesn't feel that really strong pull, right? He can't really feel her heart. He can't feel her feminine essence, right? It's because it's so much more than just going along and just following a man's lead. And so because submission, I mean, submission can be very difficult if you've got control issues, right? Because it can feel unsafe to let go. Though on a first date, typically women don't have much. Those control issues tend to come up later. So that's relatively easy, right? I can have a conversation with a woman for 20 minutes about just letting go of control and just letting a man lead. That's pretty easy to teach, right? You can do that. You can do that for sure in an hour-long coaching session. But to teach a woman to fully be in her feminine, right? To fully be in her feminine essence and let go of her masculine completely so that a man can just feel that instantly. That is the equivalent of teaching Alan from Two and a Half Men to fully step into his dominance and become a James Bond or a whoever, right? So like a man who's actually relatively quite masculine, who not just can lead, but his energetic signature is very masculine. And so that's the hard part, to go from that masculinized, like being a masculinized woman to fully letting it all go. That takes a lot of work. That takes moving through a ton of fear. That requires moving through, a lot of blind spots and having those blind spots pointed out to you. That requires, a ton of discomfort and moving through a lot of trauma, feeling a lot of trauma, crying out a lot of trauma. A true, real, deep letting go and opening up. All right, that takes a lot more than an hour. And that is the process that we are helping support women on, and do it very, very quickly, probably faster than a woman ever could anywhere in any kind of program. That's what we help women do in the academy, right? And of course, we're showing women how to submit and be vulnerable and all that kind of stuff. But the bigger shift, the bigger underlying shift, and it's going to continue after the academy as well, but you make a really big shift during those 6 months, is to go from that more masculine, call it contained, I don't even know how to describe the masculine energy. It just not feminine, right? It's just not feminine and not inspiring to a man. So to go from that to that feminine essence where it's just like a man cannot help but want to be a man around such a woman who can't help but want to step up and serve her, take care of her, provide for her, protect her, just naturally be in that role because he's so inspired to do so, right? It just feels so natural. Just like when a woman is with a really dominant man, who she can just feel his presence. She can feel his dominance. She can feel how in control he is, feel his truth, feel his penetration, energetic penetration. Just like it is so easy for that woman to just let go of control, right? Even if she normally has control issues. That's the equivalent. And that's what we help women do. And when you've made that full shift, everything becomes so easy, right? Attracting men, inspiring men, being in relationships with men is so unbelievably easy and natural. And you will never have that issue again where you're like, where are all the men? Where are all the dominant men? Where are all the men who know how to lead? They're all over you. Your problem becomes, how do I sort through these men? Right? How do I screen through the men to find the absolute most dominant one who's going to be the most right for me? How do I, reject all these men and because I don't want to hurt their feelings, right? It becomes a very different set of problems that you're now dealing with. And you end up, like anybody theoretically, any woman could make all of these shifts, right, in a lifetime, but almost none will. Most women, even who, learn about polarity, most won't, because it's such a difficult thing to make all the shifts. You might make some, right? You might learn, of course, like hopefully I would expect if you're learning polarity, you're going to learn enough to, express your feelings and, try to let go of control and all that stuff. But to make the really big shift, the really big energetic shift to fully living in your feminine essence, fully letting go of all control, not just with a man, but with the universe, right? Where you can just fully flow and and know that you're going to be taken care of. That's the bigger shift. And that's what I want for all women. And that's what I want to help all women do, right? For women who are actually really committed to this and really want to make that full shift, not just part of it, but all the way, who are so serious about this work. And to really make it all the way, this has to be like your top priority. You like, this has to be your dream, right? Your dream self, your dream relationship. Really prioritizing it and taking it really serious, because otherwise you're just not going to have the courage and the motivation to make all these shifts, right? Because it's very uncomfortable. But if you do have that level of commitment and you know that you need support, because it's just kind of a waste of time to try to do it all on your own, the decades that it would take, when it can take such a shorter period of time when you have real support and a container to practice in. If you're at that point, you're that serious, you're the woman that I want to talk to. The woman who is that committed, willing to be courageous. It's okay to be totally terrified. You'd be kind of crazy not to be scared, because it is a very scary thing, but it is such a rewarding process, right? This rapid change and transformation and healing, and the incredible results that you get very quickly in your external reality, the way that men start responding to you. It's so worth it. So if you're really committed and you're willing to be courageous, and you know that you want this real support to make this transformation happen quickly, send me a private message on Facebook and let's talk.